For a bit of context, I decided to have a bit of a conversation. Well, I intended it for a debate style thing, but it kind of didn't work out. So really, it's a conversation with a zoophile, really trying to get into their mind, see what their viewpoint is, and have a bit of a discussion. Really, nothing too intensive is all. So yeah. As of to why I did this, I really don't have a good reason myself. So, that's how my priorities are in order. Oh well. So anyway, here is conversation. It occurred over text, and that's why there's the really old text to speech, because, yeah, of course. But I do voice over what I say, so without further ado, here it is. But anyways, why did you do it? Did you feel that you were in the right?
I didn't feel I was in the wrong. Humans like pretending they are special and their religions are what they use to build the foundations of their morality system. Thus it's all extremely flawed down to its foundation. Any idiot who has ever spent a single second with a dog would know that they can give consent to things, not just head pats and belly rubs. Dogs are also literally bred to be empathy machines anyways. If they care about you enough, they generally won't mind at all.
How large is your sample size?
Uh, I don't really recall.
So why'd you stop? Were you just unable to get familiar with another one?
Dogs are super rare in big cities, especially in the US, where dogs are just outright banned in most high-density buildings. Landlords of apartment complexes don't want to deal with the issues that pets bring, so it's rare for large apartment complexes to allow dogs, or cats, or any pets.
Wouldn't the lack of verbal communication make consent super difficult to get?
No, there are many things a dog can do to tell you to fuck off. Growl, scratch, bite, throw a fit, squirm.
What about signs to fuck on?
Very few actually show them in non-subtle ways. It's usually very subtle. After doing stuff a few times, they start immediately getting into certain positions when they see you. They do certain gestures to imply certain things. I knew this husky that was a proud fuck. Wouldn't admit what he wanted me to do. Kept being large and just placing his paw on my head and trying to press me down, then growl like the big dummy he is when I got close to his sheath and stop when I actually made contact. It's dependent on the dog. Big dummy. Miss that fluff ball. This girl doggy kept immediately laying down in front of me every time she saw me with her legs spread out because I always eat her out when no one was around, and she was very insistent on spreading exactly like that every time. She even started eating another dog out actually. Rarely, but it still happened a few times. Just like humans, it's based on the person and it can be super subtle. Doesn't mean they are all receptive to this.
Seeing as animals are easily conditioned, would it not be possible to condition an animal to have sex with you?
Yes, but not like humans are any less easy to brainwash. If you're going to bring in the concept of free will into the consent argument, yeah, no, humans are no better, and it's all very finicky anyways. You might have hated greens when you were younger, but you learned to enjoy it. Are you self-raping yourself? Or are you genuinely enjoying them now? And it can be anything that you might have not enjoyed, but do now. Things change. Conditions change. Preferences change. So, meh. Yes, the conditioning argument is valid, but it's valid on humans as well. And quite frankly, I will be the first to admit that most humans that have sex with non-humans probably don't give a fuck about the non-human. But humans are terrible at judging these things. But yes,
Quote, most see it as a fetish and not a lifestyle, unquote. Is that accurate?
I don't see it as either. I cared about all the dogs I've played around with. It's not a lifestyle because it's not what I am restricted to, and it's not a fetish because I don't consider it outside of what is normal for my perception. And quite frankly, my fetish is cute things in general. If a dog is not cute, then meh.
But shouldn't somebody feel an obligation to the animal to ensure that they're enjoying it too?
Enjoyment comes in many different degrees. They are not made to enjoy sex, but it's not going to hurt them either.
What do you mean by that?
The attention and your presence in itself is inherently the enjoyment for them. Most animals don't really get chemically rewarded for sex. Humans are one of the handful that do. At least, not sex for pleasure.
They have orgasms, do they not?
Orgasms are a mechanism. It serves a function.
Doesn't that release pleasure?
Humans just happen to get pleasure from it.
Do other animals also? Any examples?
Dolphins.
What of dogs?
Socially sentient creatures, even if humans don't want to actually admit it. Dogs are emphatic machines. They can indirectly derive pleasure from your own, because that is literally what they are bred to do. I'm not saying they are made for sex, mind you.
You didn't directly answer the question. Do they receive pleasure from an orgasm?
Dogs specifically?
Yes.
Not that I am aware of. I don't believe they do. If you're going to spend time with them, and you'd normally be petting the shit out of them, something they clearly enjoy, and they can let you slip right on in without any consequence, what is being lost in that transaction? As an example.
So at what point did you discover this was a thing you're into?
You're gonna hate this one. Maybe. I've been looting since I think I was 7.
What?
So yeah.
7?
Yes.
How and why?
I've been down this train enough that I rather not explain the odd one. Especially since humans honestly believe that being young equals being so dumb and emotionally immature that consent is entirely impossible. So I'm not going to answer that. Not worth the headache. I will say that I knew I was into it cause being naked around a cute doggo was a bad idea, because guess what's the first spot they fucking aim but to lick at? I have a hard time understanding fetishes in the same way a lot seem to think of them as a thing, topic, theme, act that arouses you. It always felt like that's just self-manipulation. Why would the idea itself of, I don't know, being bonded, arouse you? I understand why others are affected by the idea of fetishes, but I can't really have fetishes. I am too self-aware and unable to bullshit myself to have fetishes. I mostly see cuteness or sexiness. Is something cute or sexy? Does it feel good? If those 2 check boxes are filled, I'm in.
So let me get this straight. You didn't even hit puberty, and you already wanted to fuck a dog.
Saying wanted is not the correct word. More like, happen to enjoy being licked in certain areas and ways. Enjoyed returning the favor. Was aware enough to know that adults could never find this out. But I've known what sex itself was since I was very young. So don't dig too deep.
Well then, moving on.
A lot of these answers are not for everyone.
Would you say that you are sexually attracted to them, or do you just like sex?
I guess I can say that I am very sexually attracted to them. I have nothing but good experiences on the matter. The same can't be said about my experiences with humans.
Do you still hold an attraction to humans, or is it solely animals?
Animals, obviously meaning non-humans in this case, is overgeneralizing it. Dogs can stumble into the same issues humans have. Dogs can be ugly and annoying with a terrible personality. So can a human. Like I said, I don't operate on the as a fetish or not system.
So is it equal attraction?
Well, dogs have an unfair advantage when it comes to physical attraction. I like the design of the canine genitals more than humans. Dog pussy never really smells bad either. Human pussy on the other hand. Me. I also really like fluff because I greatly enjoy the feeling of it. So, in that regard, humans are a disadvantage.
A preference, but not necessarily exclusivity?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people tie in furries to zoos. How do you feel about furries? And do you feel that the two groups have a lot of overlap?
You'd have to define furries for any real argument to be made. What exactly is a furry? It's too heavily opinionated. People who like and throw characters. So does that mean that feel likers are excluded? Did they forcibly join the club? Or tactically join to mask them from being labeled as zoophiles? Because of what the commonplace meaning for furries is, I even consider bronies a subculture of furries. Do weebs partly count? They like animal ear girls. Where does the border of furry and not a furry lie? I can't really answer that question very well because the words we are using are too heavily opinionated.
Makes sense. The line is quite the gray area.
It gets worse if you think it's possible to be partly furry, because then the combinations are fucking infinite. A lot of people tie furries to zoos for two things. Primary reason being humans are fucking stupid on average and the media loves blasting the occasional fringe news piece where a furry fucked a dog and went to jail. And two, because, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, feral lovers have kinda been incorporated into the furry spectrum. Again, whether by force or tactically, I don't know, but they have.
So are feral zoos in denial?
A lot are.
Or perhaps too afraid to act out?
Not exactly. Like I said, a lot of humans don't really create their own opinions. They are in the closet because they have never questioned why they think it's wrong in rule. A lot of them, at least. Some are probably just afraid. Actually, that's a bad way of putting it. A lot of the ones who do question it and come to the conclusion that it's not wrong to them are probably afraid too. Though this probably is made worse by the common shyness humans tend to have in relation to talking about sexual topics. This being a shyness that is trained into them, mind you, since most religions teach that anything sexual is dirty and should never be talked about. Yes, bottled them feelings right up. Exactly what they want.
How would you go about legalizing or decriminalizing bestiality?
You don't. It's a cultural revolution, not a legal one.
Given you could, would you?
No,
Oh?
humans are not ready for it. Besides, you'd need to incorporate anti-abuse laws that will go to shit really quickly.
I've heard many say they prefer it in a gray area.
You'd need an emphatic majority in humanity to make certain anti-abuse laws, and most humans can't be empaths because of their innate emotional selfishness. As in, you'd have the argument that anti-abuse laws are needed to prevent rampant and legal rape everywhere. But that wouldn't work. To be fair, neither do domestic human rape and abuse laws, but whatever.
Well, on the prior thing, do you ever see it being more socially accepted? Would you want it to be? Or was this answered by the thing you just said?
I'd want to see it more socially accepted. Legality doesn't mean much to me though. There are laws against countless things that humans still commonly do. Rape and abuse being right on the top of that list, funnily enough. Rape is extremely common in most countries, it's just never talked about. But that's more a religious issue.
Using religion as an argument. Ew.
Hey, what else am I supposed to say? That Allah said that a girl needs to allow strong, healthy men that go to war pump as much seed into them without any complaint or else they are going to hell? Is that the argument you want me to use? I either summarize it as religion, or I am forced to explain what the whims of X-religion's gods are. That and how I am screwed on certain things because I am forced to use religion and culture interchangeably because a lot of culture is directly influenced by religion. It's hard to make arguments against things that don't make sense. Bestiality being shunned was started by religion as well, thus it became part of the culture. And since, unfortunately, countries that had a Christian-based religions were the most effective at waging wars, it spread everywhere and they were a hardcore shunner of bestiality, so it became part of almost the entire world's culture who hate on it. So yes, religion is, unfortunately, one of my arguments when it comes to why it's so hated. No further comment until feedback question is provided.
I just wish subjectivity didn't dictate so much, but we're only human. But that answered another question decently, too. Do you feel that being willing to have sex with an animal means that you love it more than somebody who doesn't?
That's a per-person opinion. I need to point that out before I answer this. No, because most people I've seen in videos have sex with dogs don't seem to really care much at all. They are just a vessel for them to project their sexual desires. Also, most people in animal porn have tiny PPS. Don't know if that's coincidence. Would I have sex with a dog? I don't even know. Maybe. Depends how horny I am and how receptive the dog is to me overall presence. How cute/handsome sexy I find them. Their immediate personality. But generally, I really care about the dogs I've fucked. Do I pretend we have a deeper relationship as a result of the sex? No.
Do you feel zoos have an obligation to care about their partner, no matter the species?
That'd be imposing on others' free will. Also, hate sex is an actual thing, so any arguments I try to make would break down. Caring, aka emotions, are opinions, can't be factualized. I don't personally believe in the tradition you have to be married / in a relationship to have sex with someone thing. Diverse ratios are all you need to look at to know that it doesn't actually work and it's just an outdated religious ritual. And if that's not enough, take time to consider how much you and everything you like has changed as the years have gone by. And then realize that those changes are not stopping anytime soon. Then realize you are stuck with this person you might hate later in the future.
I don't mean it in the sense that you have to marry, but rather see the partner as something more than a cock sleeve.
Can't really answer that. Because it doesn't make sense to pretend that I could answer that. Which is why I don't hold an opinion on it.
I guess personally, how do you feel on that matter rather than as a whole group?
I wouldn't fuck anyone I don't like, regardless of how I feel on the horniness scale. I find sex is only worth it when you enjoy someone's physical and mental properties at the same time. But that's just me. Sex toys have also come a long way. I find myself preferring them over most beings.
Oh? Mind if I ask why?
Because it's just not worth the time and hassle. Humans, for the most part, are really selfish, whiny and annoying. I don't find it worth my time anymore to have sex with most. Only a handful of people. Sex is not that good. As weird of a statement as many will find that. Mostly being because a lot of people live part of their lives revolving around their sexuality. LGBT fanatics are a good example. Using them as an example because they are currently the most loud ones. But anyways, sex is not really that good of a thing in itself. It is hardly worth putting effort into sex for the sake of sex. Especially anal with boys. Well, anal in generally. I also refuse to wear a condom. I might as well not have sex. Even with extra thin ones it feels way worse than a fucking fleshlight.
You say people hate zoos because of religion, but why do you think religion disallowed it in the first place?
Control. Religion depends heavily on sexually frustrated men to operate. Making it taboo is an easy way to stop a lot of them, even if a lot of it is socially enforced. That's why relationships are a thing as well. Stopping males from getting easy access to sex is very important for a religion to remain in control.
Are you only attracted to dogs or other non-human animals?
Not for anal sex. Actually, maybe dolphins. I love the way dolphin cock looks, and they are confirmed to fuck for fun, so I wouldn't mind getting some dolphin cock to suck. But everything else is fantasy-wise. I think big tigers are gorgeous, but I wouldn't try fucking one. Not worth the risk and effort. Besides, I'll eventually be able to make my own anyways. To point something out, the first successful reported cloning of an entire animal was in 1996. A sheep. And that was just what was reported. Organ cloning is close to being practical for everyday consumers. Robotics are going a long way. Machine-human interfaces are starting to be researched more deeply.
Neural interfaces raise a strange thing though. If one can simulate fucking something with all the sensations but no physical contact, would it still be seen as wrong?
Probably, but it'd be almost impossible to enforce rules against it. It's too easy to privatize.
I wish that evidence for zoos was more than just anecdotes, like an actual study, but I'm sure an ethics committee would have a heart attack if they found out about it.
Yep. It's a self-perpetualizing issue.
You could probably ask people if they would fund the study, and many would say no, probably. Afraid of the results, I would say.
Heh. It's more complex than funding.
I know.
Who you'd get that would be willing to have their names attached to the study?
Then don't attach names, I suppose.
Then it's not valid. You could have faked all these test subjects. If there's not the address, name and date of each participant.
Sounds like an invitation to witch hunt, if you ask me.
It is. Again, it's self-enforcing. It's designed to be.
How shitty.
Oh wells.
But anyways, that's all the questions I have.
Doesn't matter.
I would think you care, seeing as you're one of them.
In a few years from now, there will either be a huge social revolution across the globe, or society will collapse.
Ah, how pessimistic, possibly.
That or a purge of the majority of humanity. This state of society cannot be sustained for prolonged periods of time. Point being, the current moral system is hopelessly beyond repair and everything will go to shit soon anyways. Heh. A species so stupid and easily to manipulate that major companies manage to make a virus that doesn't even have more deaths than the flu and common cold combined seem like the apocalypse is. When it's clearly a $2-5 trillion race for who gets to sell the latest obligatory vaccine. This entire sociability humanity has built is too fragile and fractured to survive for much longer. Especially once AI actually takes over 99% of jobs. Even AI making is already being taken over by AIs. But that's the summary of why I do not care enough to have an opinion on how to help fix the issue with morality. It won't matter for too long.
So that's the main part of the conversation. However, there are a few notable quotes that I couldn't really find a spot for, or it occurred kind of outside of that, but I still feel are a bit relevant to the conversation and establishing who they are. So here's some of those.
Anyways, a lot of cultures don't care, and a lot of poorer countries don't care cause they can't enforce it. So a considerable chunk of humanity is probably at least partially receptive to the topic, not necessarily the act. Also, feral porn is absolutely massive and a lot of people who enjoy feral like to pretend they would never consider the real thing, but it's mostly that, them playing pretend to conform to their social norms. You'd also be surprised at how many people like beast in, if you have the balls to be asking. Well, that's what most humans do, so it's fucking everywhere. Mostly because most humans don't really have original thoughts. They learn everything they care about from their religion, culture and family friends. So they never put any thought into what they believe in, thus depend on me it's just the right thing to do. Style argument. I don't even consider humans a truly sentient race anymore as a result of this. I consider most of humanity to be hive minds of different belief systems. I do not identify with human-made groups. I am not a furry, zoo or anything else. I also do not seek validity from others, unlike most humans, which is why I wouldn't care about meeting people with similar interests. Especially when it's dogs that are being talked about. Dogs are specifically bred to be empathic machines. They are made to be susceptible to the desires of their masters, and can directly derive enjoyment from doing what is desired out of them. Humans are generally born extremely selfish in every regard. You can't really compare both species together when it comes to psychology. I don't see the point in shame. Regrets only make you weaker, shame only makes you cowardly.
An inspirational quote. I'm sure somebody would discredit it because of what you've done. Ad hominem go burr.
Yes, but that's why I stopped caring about whether I am believed. That especially applies to real life. If someone asks me a question and then proceeds to tell me that I am lying, I tell them to never ask me something related to that topic again. Why would you ask something if you were going to deny the answer? Might as well not ask. So if they will discredit what I say because of who I am, good. I know to never talk to them again. Not worth my time.